Welcome to week 5, and this week we're going to be talking about customer analysis. And this is probably going to be one of the easiest ones for you to reflect on personally, because we're all customers and we buy across such a large range of different products and services that we should also be able to have some greater insight into exactly what are the things that affect us dependent on the nature of the product or service that we're buying, or indeed even the time that we're buying it or who we're buying it for. So I'm going to go back to my example of the car industry. And again, I'm going to go back to my last example of needing to buy a vehicle and indeed the things that I'm thinking about in the future. So the car that I own at the moment is a Toyota Aygo. I bought it primarily on the basis that it was cheap. It had low mileage. In my past experience, both as a user and as somebody who's read quite a lot about the various different kinds of vehicles that I might potentially buy, it's very reliable, it's very economical, and it's very cheap to run. So in actual fact, I don't even have to pay road tax because the emissions from my vehicle are so limited. So those are the criteria that I applied. But I mentioned in the previous video that I'd only really got two vehicles to be able to choose from: the Toyota Aygo, which was one, and the Hyundai i10, which was the other. And I did say that I'd made a decision based purely on aesthetics. And actually, that was really the only way to separate those two vehicles. In all other respects, they were very, very similar. In fact, reflecting now as somebody who's owned an Aygo for some time and seen developments in both the Aygo and the i10, if I was making that same decision now, I'd probably buy the i10. I still think the Aygo slightly has the edge on looks, although the i10 has improved. But one of the things that I don't like about the Aygo is the fact that it just has a glass back window that opens to access the boot. And it always feels a little bit flimsy. And when it closes in particular, whilst I don't expect it's going to shatter, there's always that little bit of edge to it. Whereas the i10 has a traditional metal surrounded boot lid. So if I'm looking at buying them again, that may well be one of the things that sways me. But one of the other things that I've noticed is somebody who's never really cared that much about how a car looks or the kind of extra things that are added to it. I have found that I do notice more when a vehicle has alloy wheels. And now, despite the fact that it goes against everything that I really believe in as a consumer, I do find myself thinking, you know what? Alloy wheels do actually look better than more traditional wheels with hubcaps on. Even more so now, I think, because a lot of manufacturers, recognizing that people would prefer to have alloy wheels, have started putting fake alloy wheel dust covers over their wheels where they aren't alloy. And actually, that just makes them look worse. Think about yourselves. The majority of you are probably either car drivers or you might at some point be thinking about buying a car. What kind of criteria would you apply as a consumer?